Well, earlier we saw that Donald Trump talked about Western civilization being under threat. For more on this and Trump's visit to Europe, I'm joined in the studio by James Boyes, who's an Associate Professor of International Political Studies at Richmond University. Nice to have you with us. What did you take away from that speech in Poland, especially the part about the future of Western civilization being under threat?
I thought it was a remarkable speech for a whole variety of reasons, not least of which was the fact that the majority of the speech was just a history lesson about the atrocities that the Poles had been through, and that's well known. So one wonders the extent to which he was speaking for a home audience or an international audience. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he sort of sprang into this idea that the great question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. I mean, I don't know where that's come from. That's not a debate which necessarily is happening that I'm aware of, certainly. And then talked about the idea that we must defend against increasing bureaucracy. This was a remarkable speech. One felt it must have been thrown together by a whole committee almost of people in the White House thinking, well, let's throw this idea and that idea in, and it therefore was an incoherent mess, I thought.
Yeah, you almost struggled really to work out whether he was sticking to the script or whether he was ad-libbing. Normally you can tell. This one was more difficult.
Yeah, I give you that. I think the idea that there was a central core element to the speech there, the histrionics effectively going forward, and then it was like, well, what can I throw in at this point? And at one point he certainly appeared to ad-lib, and he started talking about, the inheritance that this generation had got for this organisation without actually identifying what body he was referring to. It might have been NATO, it might have been the EU, which didn't get mentioned, of course.
Let's talk about NATO. I mean, how far have his views on NATO changed? I mean, previously, during the election campaign, it was described, or he described it as obsolete. He pretty much confirmed now that the US is committed to that Article 5, which basically ensures that the allies defend each other when they're attacked, and that's the key part of NATO. Have his views changed, or has he been persuaded to be basically softer on NATO?
I think it's important to remember that when he was campaigning, this is the first American president who'd never had either a political office beforehand or held military office beforehand. What his understanding of NATO was at that point was perhaps somewhat limited. There's no doubt, I think, that his appointment of people like H.R. McMaster, for example, has gone a long way to try to educate him on these ideas. But I think these ideas and this change of heart has been brought kicking and screaming to a certain extent. And we heard today one line in the speech about a commitment to mutual defence, but it was hardly the heart of the speech, and it was hardly a heartfelt support of Article 5, which of course has only ever been triggered once, and that was actually in the aftermath of September 11th.
All right, James Boyes, appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Thank you.